8M4, Lesson 3, Linear Equations in X. Okay, so we are going to learn today about how to understand what it means to satisfy an equation. So this is building on lessons 1 and 2, where we did some work with linear equations, where specifically are linear expressions, and now we're going to move on to linear equations and begin to understand more about those, how to solve them, how to understand what it means to satisfy an equation, what it means to have a true statement. So without further ado, let's get on to the lesson. And here we are, just a second as I get there. Okay, here we go. Oh, that is our homework help. We are not going to start with homework help. We are going to start instead with the lesson. Okay, so what does it mean to satisfy an equation? So this idea of satisfying an equation is one that was brought up today, and we ask questions when we say satisfy an equation. We ask questions like this. We say, does x equal 3 satisfy 4x plus 1 equals 13? So we ask the question and we say, well, if x were to be 3, does it satisfy this equation? It is the equivalent. This is equivalent to saying if this variable is set to the number, does it make the equation true? Does it make the equation, let's just write that a little neater. Does it make the equation true? So equation, and now what is an equation? And now let's do another definition here. And we've done this before, but an equation is two expressions stated to be equal. Okay, so let's look at that. This is our variable, and it is set to the number. So this is, let's highlight this in red. If this variable is set to the number, that's this piece here, does it make the equation true? So here is our equation. And our equation is two expressions that are stated as equal. So we can take, what we do is we say, well, here's expression 1, and here's expression 2, and they're stated to be equal. We've been dealing with equations, for a long time. We've back in, first, second grade, we probably have been looking at equations. 2 plus 2 equals 4. 2 plus 2 equals 4, and that's an equation. And here's two expressions. These are very simple expressions. This expression is 2 plus 2, and that's 4 equals, and 4 is just equal to 4. That's about the simplest expression you get, just a number. So 4 equals 4, and that's true. Okay, so we're just going to look at our equation here. And we say, to understand whether x equals 3 satisfies this equation, we just take this 3 and we plug it in for x. So instead of x, we have our two x's. What we're going to do is we're going to take this 3 and put it in for x and see if it's true. So let's see if it's true. So 4 times x, well, x is 3, so that's our question. is 4 times 3 plus 1. Does that equal 13? Well, 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1 equals 13, and 13 equals 13. So yes, it's true. So we get a true statement, which means that yes, we can answer this question. Our question is yes, because it makes it true. So let's happy cat that. And now let's look at kind of another example. That was example 1. Now let's go on and let's do this color, and let's do question number 2. And I bet you can guess what I'm going to do on question number 2. So let's just see. Here we go. Does x equal to satisfy the equation 5 times x plus 2 minus 3 equals 15. And so what we do is we look at our statement here. Does this satisfy the equation? So we're going to take everywhere where we see an x, we're going to replace it with a 2. So we rewrite our equation. 5 times 2 plus 2. Right? We exchange our x, we replace it with a 2, minus 3 equals 15. And now because we have no variables, we can evaluate both sides. Well, the right side is just 15, and our left side is 5 times 4. We're just simplifying. 5 times 4 is 20, minus 3 equals 15. And we say 17 equals 15. Well, that's false. That is not true. So the answer is, does x equals 2 satisfy this equation? The answer is no. No, it does not. Because if I substitute in the x equal 2, I get a false statement. Now, let you try number 3. And we'll go with this. So does x equal a half satisfy seven x plus 4 equals 19x minus 2? Well, I'll let you puzzle that one. Now pause and try. If you want to see if you really get the gist of this exercise, I'm going to encourage you to pause and try. And now I assume you're back. And so let's see. We actually here have 2 x's. So we have to put a half in here and here. So let's do that now. 7 times a half plus 4 equals 19 times a half minus 2. Well, 7 times a half is 7 halves plus 4. Let's just convert right now to halves. So that's 8 halves equals 19 halves minus 2 is 4 halves. So on the right here, I get 15 halves. And on the left, 19 minus 4 is also 15 halves. So that's true. So it's yes. X equals half does satisfy this equation, and we can lay down our happy cat knowing that we understand what it means to satisfy an equation. It means plug the number in and give it a go. And if it makes it true, it satisfies. If it's no, it does not satisfy. So now let's twist things around. And this was asked, you had a question like this in your lesson today. Now I want you to think of an equation satisfied by x equals 10. So this needs to be, you're thinking backwards now. I'm going to think of an equation satisfied by x equals 10. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to think of an equation with a 10 in it, and then I'm going to back out and put the x in. So watch what I do. I'm going to say, well, 10 plus 4 equals 14. So I'm going to say, well, the equation x, because 10 is equal to x, I'm going to say x plus 4 equals 14. And so here's my equation. This is Mr. Lipscomb's, Mr. L's equation. Now, can you think of an equation that is satisfied by x equals 10? And I'm going to give you a hint. There are lots of them. Okay, so I want you to think of one. And as you think of it, I'm going to write a lot of these out. I'm going to write out, well, 2 times 10 equals 20. So if x equals 10, 2x equals 20 is 1. Let me do another tricky one. 2 times 10 plus 5, well, 10 plus 5, that's 15 times 2, that's 30 on the left. And let's say 10 plus 10 plus 10. Well, that's 30 on the left. This is 30 on the right. So my other equation could be 2 times x plus 5 equals x plus x plus x. This would also be satisfied by x equals 10, because if I went back and put a 10 in for all of my x's, it would be true. Let me try another one. 10 minus 4 times 7 equals, well, that's 6, that's 42. 4 times 10 plus 2. This will equal 42 on the right, and this will equal 42 on the left. So x minus 4 times 7 equals 4x plus 2. That would also work. And actually there is an infinite number of possibilities, and hopefully you could think of one. There's an infinite number of possibilities. So let's lay down our happy cats. Happy cat, happy cat, happy cat. Anything you could, the easiest one would be this one. Let's look at this one. We could have just said x equals 10. That's an equation that's satisfied by x equals 10, because if I take a 10 and put it in for x, I get 10 equals 10. How about x minus 10 equals 0? That would work. 10 minus 10 is 0. That would work too. How about x over 10 equals 1? That would work. Lots and lots and lots. An infinite number. Okay, let's do an equation that's not satisfied by x over 10 equals 10. How about this one? This would be not. Let's just do one that's not. And I'm going to call this out, and this would be not satisfied by x equals 10. How about this one? 2x equals 4. Because 2 times 10 does not equal 4. So this would be not. This was not satisfied by x equals 10. In fact, it's satisfied by x equals 2, for those of you who are really on the ball. Okay, let's move along. Okay, does an equation always have a solution? Let me tell you. This is exercise 7 from class today. This exercise 7. Does an equation always have a solution? And hopefully you were able to say, think of an answer think of some solutions, and maybe your teacher talked about it, but the answer is no. And here's an easy way to think about this. Let's say on the left I have x, and on the right I have x plus 4. So this equation has no solutions. And that's because you cannot think of a number. And why is this? And why? Because you cannot think of a number that is equal to the number plus 4. Okay? So if I started here on the left and I said, well, let's try x equals 1. Well, on the left I'd have 1, and on the right I would have 1 plus 4. Well, 1 never equals 1 plus 4 because 1 does not equal 5. Well, let's try x equals 2. Well, does 2 equal 2 plus 4? No. No. What if I tried 10, a bigger number, because I want to get closer to it? X equals 10. Does 10 equals 10 plus 4? No. In fact, I will always be the left side will always be 4 less than the right side. In this equation. Okay, so does an equation always have a solution? No, it doesn't. So here's an example. You know, you can think of lots of examples. So, I mean, x equals x plus 1 is another example. X equals x plus 2. You know, 2x equals 2x plus 10. These are all have no solutions. Okay. Maybe it wasn't easy to think of some examples, but maybe you can start to think of examples on your own. But the key here is just to know that not all equations have a solution, not necessarily to know how to come up with these equations. So don't feel bad if you couldn't come up with one. Okay, so now here's your homework help. Now you pause and try all three. Oh, look at that cool thing. Whoops, no, we don't want fill. We're going to turn off fill. Pause and try all three. Okay. Let's go. So does y equals 1 plus 1 satisfy 10y minus 1 equals 10? I hope you have some paper and you tried this and you have answers for all three of these before we go through just answering them. Remember, you practicing is so key to you learning. So let's try this out. So what are we going to do? We're going to take this 1.1 and we're going to put it in for y. Doesn't always have to be x. It can be any variable, right? In this case, we have y. So we're going to put our 1 point in for y. Let's say it's 10 times 1.1 minus 1. Does that equal 10? Well, 10 times 1.1 is 11. I won't do the math for you, but you should know how to multiply that. Minus 1 equals 10. So does 11 minus 1 equal 10? The answer is yes. So the answer is yes. Happy cat. All right, does 0 satisfy 4x equals 4x plus 4? Well, let's try it out. Let's switch colors for this one. 4 times 0. Does that equal 4 times 0 plus 4? Well, 4 times 0 is 0 equals, does that equal 0 plus 4? Does 0 equal 4? No. No, 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 does not. No, does not satisfy. All right, happy cat there for those of you who got the no. Now we're going to go to this last problem. And there's one like this on the homework. So does x equals 1, x equals 2, or both satisfy 2 times x minus 1 equals 2x minus 2? Well, let's try x. Let's try x equals 1. Well, does 2 times 1 minus 1 equal 2 times 1 minus 2, right? We had to plug our 1 in for the first x and the second x. So does 2 times 0 equal 2 minus 2? Does 0 equal 0? Yes. So now you're saying, well, x equals 2 couldn't also work. Could it? Or could it? Well, let's try it out. 2 times, well, x is 2, minus 1 equals 2 times 2 minus 2. So does 2 times, well, 2 minus 1 is 1. So that's 2 on the left. The right side is 4 minus 2 equals 2. Wow, that works too. So yes to x minus 1, yes to x equals 2. So they both, yes, they both satisfy. And so that's another happy cat. So what have we learned? Whoops. What did we learn? One, we learned in this lesson, first thing we learned is how to test whether a number satisfies an equation. That's the first thing we learned. But the second thing we learned is sometimes there are no solutions to an equation. Sometimes one solution, and sometimes more than one. Okay. We're back, and hopefully this was a useful exercise. Hopefully lesson 3 makes a lot of sense. We'll be moving on to lesson 4 very soon, and enjoy. I hope you're enjoying math. I love math, and I really hope this is something that this resource is helpful. If it is, you know, tell me online. But you know, if you don't feel comfortable saying anything online or responding to the YouTube in the comments or asking questions, at least just tell a friend. Just tell a friend, hey, I missed this. I have this great video that helps me with my homework, and it might help you too. And other than that, see you next time. Love teaching this stuff. Happy math. That makes me feel